Another week, another Football Tailgaters podcast where we go over hot topics in the NFL. Let me introduce ourselves, starting with our Jets fan, Yams, Andy, the unbiased fan in the group, and myself, Aaron, recovering Cowboys fan. Let's unpack the conference championship weekend games of the NFL and go over for our topics for today. We had two games, obviously, right? And it's all leading up to the Super Bowl, but, over a forgetful Pro Bowl weekend right before it. We'll talk about that. Obviously, the games, we're going to talk about that too. And even a little bit of a head start on contract talk regarding Kirk Cousins. So let's start off with the usual, what we always do in this podcast, which is talking about our biggest disappointments and surprise of the games that went on in the weekend. So let's warm up and start with our weekly biggest disappointment for the conference championship games that were held this past weekend.
My biggest disappointment is the fact that Dan Campbell, besides he didn't go on it on 4th and out, but it's the critical run where it cost him to use a timeout that affected him at the end.
For me, as the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, when you have Lamar Jackson making him a pocket passer when his true talent is in his legs, and we just saw them crumble there. You didn't use his talent, so it's a big disappointment for the Ravens offensive staff.
I'm disappointed in the decision-making that the Detroit Lions had in this game versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Sorry, mixing it up. 49ers, they're both red. I was looking at the screen. Anyways, excuse that. It was awful. You're going up against, you're the underdog in this situation, right? And I appreciate him for doing what he thought was probably the good thing, but we're going to talk about that later and get into more details about that. So that's my biggest disappointment is the Detroit Lions, specifically Dan Campbell and his decision-making in this past game against the 49ers. So what about the weekly biggest surprise?
For me, the biggest surprise is the Kansas City Chiefs defense. Everybody has been saying, a lot of analysts have been saying that they're the most top defense, like one of the best defenses that the Chiefs has ever had, and since Mahomes has been there. And I really didn't see it, but they actually played really, really well against the Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. So for me, it's the defense for the Chiefs.
For me, it's the same thing. It probably more on the offense. They've been cruising by the whole season with Kelsey, with Pacheco, and Rice, who kind of formed to be a target or a reliable target in the second half of the season. So just that they're doing it with very little weapons.
I'm going to have to go with the fact that, usually when you're talking about the disappointment and surprise, right? Surprise is usually a good thing is, I guess, what we're kind of mentioning here. But I'm going with the surprise on the fact that Lamar Jackson, where was the run game in general for the Baltimore Ravens? Where was the run game in general? Not just him, right, obviously, but he's clearly the star when it comes to running the ball for the Baltimore Ravens. That's kind of their thing. Where was that this past game? I'm surprised by that, and I'm disappointed at the same time, but mainly surprised. How can you go away from your usual script, your strengths, what really, really, really got them through the entire season and, obviously in the playoffs as well against the Texans? Let's shift over to the NFC conference first. The NFC Conference Championship, which was between the Detroit Lions and San Francisco 49ers. If you watch that game, clearly, if you have Detroit Lions fans out there, if you're friends with them, they're check up on them. I would check up on them because that loss was extremely painful, even for me, who's not obviously a Lions fan. But watching that, I felt so sad for them, especially because I rooted for them because, San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys have a rivalry going on. I'm not a big fan of their fan base, so sorry if you're a 49ers fan. I can't really stand you, respectfully. But anyways, I'm rambling. Very crucial decisions were made by Dan Campbell, and it bit them in the butt. So we're going to talk about that as our main topic. The first one we're going to go over. So obviously Lions fall to the San Francisco 49ers 34-31. Is Dan Campbell at fault for the NFC conference loss?
Yes, but it's not that simple. If he was successful in the fourth down tries and destroyed the 49ers, people would say he's a genius. But unfortunately, his team failed to convert, which makes you look like the reason you lost. What makes me uncomfortable is that this was the NFC Championship. You have to play chess to buy your ticket to the Super Bowl. You were dominating and you let your opponent catch up fast by your mistakes.
I absolutely think he did lose the game for Detroit Lions, especially going into the second half. You had the lead. All you needed to do was take the points and secure the win even more. What bugs me more, and I mentioned it earlier, is the fact that he ran. He had Montgomery run for it and caused them a timeout. If only they were able to conserve that timeout, they might have had a 20% chance of trying to win it at the end. It was absolutely gone. He was banking it for the recovery of an onside kick, which is 1%.
That's Ben Johnson's call first. I mean, I know Campbell is the decision to continue with that play, to continue saying yeah and approve, but that's also Ben Johnson's fault as well.
Well, I do think obviously he's Dan Campbell's not the sole reason why they lost this game, but you are the one in charge of this team. You are the one that they have to go through whenever they decide to do certain plays, certain decisions in the game. And yeah, the plays that had to determine some of these, situations in the game weren't the best, right? Like Yams was obviously the critical one, right? About the running it on inside the red zone and stuff like that. But I think it's not simple because you want to be aggressive, right? But you need to be smart about it. You can't just be reckless. And that's what Dan Campbell did. He was too reckless. And I think that's just a little bit of lack of experience in being in these situations, in these crucial situations. Their pass games were pretty close, you could argue, right? But in this one, it was really, you're in a situation to go to the Super Bowl, right? You're Dan Campbell, you're in a situation to go to the Super Bowl. Every decision matters. And you could think of these consequences whenever you're deciding on these things. And if you think about it, right, if they at least went for one field goal, it would have been a tied game. Obviously, they probably could have won it if they went for both field goals. But who knows, right? The script changes based on the scoreboard for these teams. And having 6 more points prior to that whole situation, right, it changes for these teams. But I think he's the main guy to point the finger to. I don't think, obviously, this is something that is going to happen over and over again. I think this is something that's really going to burn him. It's really going to affect them mentally, and he's going to have to get over it. And I think he most likely will. Now, it's going to be tough. What I didn't like is apparently he supposedly said that this was probably their only real shot at going to the Super Bowl.
He said that in the press conference after the game?
It will be harder. He said it will be harder the following when he understands that. And I totally agree with him.
But did he say this after the game?
No, he said it to his players.
After the game?
His players. Yeah. It's not a direct quote, but it's basically what it sounds like. I think
you're talking about when he...
Was it before the game or after the game?
Yeah,
I just want to make it...
Right?
It was a pep talk.
It was a pep talk.
So it was before the game. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you just don't say that in those situations, you know? Like, I don't know, like...
Well, I don't mind that. No, I don't mind. It's kind of trying to build a fire within your team to win it. Like, this is your opportunity, your moment, seize it type of, speech.
Yeah, I know, but what happens if you lose?
Well...
Then the whole spirit is
come up
gone.
with another
the whole
speech.
Spirit, when it backfires, right? It's not cool.
Bring up another speech.
Obviously.
It's like, hey, guys, I was just kidding. Of course we have another shot next year or next season.
Well, it's kind of weird to say that. But
I'm just kidding. But
it was a weird thing to say, right? Yeah. And it kind of, obviously, I'm not saying this is a huge effect to it, but it's just, it speaks on the mentality of what Dan Campbell is, and he's all or nothing. That's what Dan Campbell is.
Yeah, but what I would say is that close to what he's saying, that if he said that there was only one, this is the season to take it to the Super Bowl. Yeah. If not, it's not going to happen. I mean, he is kind of right that it's just his window is very, very small. He's lucky that he has a really young team with Gibbs, Williams, Laporta, Hutchinson. He has a young team, and in a couple years, like their contracts are going to come up, and that's when you start losing players. We just saw the Philadelphia Eagles debacle. They were still good at some point, but then they just like crumbled. So he only has like 1, maybe 2 more seasons with this team to get to that Super Bowl. So just learn from your mistakes and
not only that,
don't do that again.
Not only that, he's going to have to hire someone to take over Ben Johnson.
What if in the season, because I didn't see completely the whole games of the Detroit Lions throughout the season, but that was his strategy, to go for it on 4th down, and it got him to the NFC Championship, I'll give you that. But what if he wasn't that aggressive, like, and just kicked the field goals throughout the whole season and to the Super Bowl? Because they had a similar situation when they played Dallas, and that didn't work well, going for it on 4th down. And now look at the situation right here. Like, they lost those games. So if they take the points, it would have been a different story.
So he doesn't regret it. First of all, he said he doesn't regret it. So we can see that he's still going to continue with some kind of aggressiveness, right? But I think he needs to be smart about it. I think it's great that he's aggressive, right? We need to see that more. And we are seeing it more with these like 4th and 1s, 4th and 2s, and whatever. Teams are being more aggressive. So it's not wrong to be aggressive. It's just you have to be aggressive at the right times. And that was what I was saying is he was being aggressive way too much in a do or die game. If this was the position to put you in the Super Bowl, right? Especially with the team, right? We all know their history. It's a huge deal that they were even there in the first place. And I think, a lot of Detroit Lions fans are grateful that they even got this far. But it's scary to even think about, because in the NFL, it's hard to go back to that same position unless you have a really, really strong core in that team. We've seen it with not San Francisco, with the Chiefs.
Yeah, well, Buffalo Bills are always there too in the AFC Championship, and they just can't get to that point. And they've had their struggles, but they have an awesome talent at quarterback.
This is the first time the Lions got there, and they squandered it big time. They blew it. They went for the right kneecap in the first half, and they're like, this is not enough. Let's go attack the second kneecap. Even though the 49ers were already handicapped. All they needed to do is make sure they stay handicapped, but no. They wanted to be extra aggressive and attack that second kneecap, and it bite them in the butt.
Well, you know why it is, though, right? It's because of the NFL analytics. Every team wants to be the new Moneyball team and like, go for it on 4th down. This is going to give you the chances because of economic numbers and math and algorithms and everything to get you to that win. And it just doesn't work that way in this particular sport, in my opinion, because there's so many factors. There's the other team's factors, like they have big time players on the defensive line that algorithm is not taking into account, I believe. Like there's weapons and the defense and the cornerbacks or in the safeties. There's so many things that the algorithm is not going to know what the defense is going to be playing at that point, at that particular play, what scheme. So you don't do that with this particular game. And baseball, sure, I mean, it is what it is. Like they have plays and everything, but you cannot do that with the NFL that much. Harbaugh actually used analytics this first year, I believe, with Lamar Jackson, and I believe he moved away from it. And look what happened with the Detroit Lions. They lost.
Okay, so Harbaugh lost. Okay. Well, let me go to the Lions. You're saying they're using analytics, which says go or forfeit the ball or punt, right?
Right. But it's a little bit more, encouraged. Yeah.
Right. So I'm pretty sure that this analytics system is you put scenarios in there. Okay, what happens if they don't convert? What are the likelihood that the 49ers, or to score based on how the defense, here's the defense stats of the Lions.
It would be great to know about the analytics. Like, okay, if you fail this is the probability of you to lose the game or something like that.
Exactly. Or if you don't convert, the probability of 49ers to score on the next drive would be what? 68%. That should help you make the decision. Okay, do I want to give that?
There's just so many factors for it to do that. That's what I'm saying. That this analytic system.
I don't think it's so. I just think
too much into that point for them to know what's going to happen in the future. If they gave you like, hey, but you know what? I mean, maybe it gives them a little point based on the time there is on the clock. right? Like it's third quarter, 3 minutes left. Like if you go for it, hey, and you don't make it, the probability of you not winning this game goes from 60% to 33%. Well, maybe that may be like double, like you change your mind at that point.
So then let's say that they are basing it off of that. So they did kick it once, right? In the beginning, they did go for and the following two, it was 3 4th downs.
It was 3 4th downs. The first one they did the field goal. It was close to the end zone, and they did the field goal, which I was surprised, and I was like, good. You know what?
They got points.
Got points. Okay, that's good. And then the second one, it was right before the halftime, and they went for it, and they missed.
Right.
Jared Goff threw a ball that wasn't like a perfect ball, and Williams just didn't catch it. So it was both their faults, and they
perfect. So now going into the third round or to the third quarter, right? The AI should have a lower percentage. Like your percentage to lose this game is lowering, right? You think I guess let me just sum it up. I don't think this is all based on AI. I just think Dan Campbell's just aggressive because he came in saying we're going to go for your kneecap and your other one.
Well, the crazy part is that at some point the game was 27-24 and he had the opportunity to tie the game at 27-27 and he went for it on 4th down. I mean, you're on the NFC Championship. We're talking about the Detroit Lions here that nobody would have, like 2-3 years ago, you'd be like, what, are you kidding? Like, no.
This is your first time here and
like
squander it.
In the longest time. Just like you
so
have it in your fingers.
Why not be more conservative? Be more smart about it. Like I feel like they were trying to, I don't know, prove something that they didn't need to prove.
It's because I kind of understand because this was their strategy the whole season. And they just like, hey, it got us this far. Let's continue doing it.
I disagree. I mean, they've been aggressive, but I don't think they're this aggressive in the second half. I kind of disagree.
Like, you look at your first half and then your second half, right? If things aren't going your way in the second half, shouldn't you change things up, right?
Exactly.
Like, as you're going through it, if things aren't working out. Because it was a different Lions team. I mean, everybody was talking about it. First half from second half. Like, what happened? They had a 17-point lead at half, and it was erased completely. Also, right, like, you got to put a little bit of blame on the defense, right? But it's hard to
the defense is known for that. That's the craziest thing, too, is the defense is known for not stopping the ball or from preventing the other team from scoring. They're not an aggressive defense. So that's why I'm pretty surprised that even Dan Campbell doesn't take the points.
There's also some crazy things that happened there, like that.
The fumble?
The Purdy just chucking it up there, and it just bounced off of
number 11.
The cornerback, the cornerback, and then Ayuk caught it.
Yeah, Ayuk caught it.
And Ayuk caught it, but it happened also to the Lions. Williamson also almost dropped the ball. It ricocheted off some, I don't know who.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of luck involved, right? And
what hurt them was not converting on the 4th or taking the points and then giving Gibbs fumble.
So let's get just a little bit of quick input on what this means for other teams around the NFL looking at hiring Ben Johnson.
I don't know who, like we talked about, I don't know who's the one that's in charge of this aggressive play calling. Montgomery running it. I don't know if that's Dan Campbell giving the green light or is it just full control to Ben Johnson. But losing like this does worry me. I would have a second thought of maybe hiring Ben Johnson for a head coach.
I would have not at all hired Ben Johnson. I know there's a trend going on to hire young coaches like McVay or LaFleur and others, but look at the Lions situation. They have a capable quarterback, 2 monster running backs with Montgomery and Gibbs, big-time wide receivers with St. Brown's and Williams, and a top 3 NFL tight end with Laporta. How will Ben Johnson do with Washington or the Seahawks, where there's clearly missing pieces? Not to mention his decision and game time decision, where it was a very questionable offense, like the debacle against Dallas, and now running it in the end of the game with the 49ers making your team use a timeout. I would stay away from Ben Johnson.
It's interesting because when I looked it up, right, on to see, because of course, like, once the game is over and the thoughts are all out there, right? And opinions and whatever, who's still interested? There's rumors that the Commanders are still interested in perhaps maybe will commit to Ben Johnson. And maybe there's still options with, obviously, Seattle is, I think, the second one behind Commanders. But if I'm not mistaken, the Commanders are right now kind of favorites to hire him. And I would double think that too, because I think it's a little bit overrated on hiring young coaches, right? Trying to get a fresh mind in there. And I think both teams are I mean, what am I saying? Commanders, hire him, sure. I mean, I hope he sucks, if you get what I'm saying, right? Because it's going to favor the Cowboys. But anyways, they have a bad track record with that, especially with the whole front office absolute disaster that was going on over there. But anyways, the way the games that I was seeing that involved obviously the Lions and what they produce with their offense and whatever, it didn't seem really consistent to me. And I just don't really like the ways, especially like, oh man, how should I put this? I mean, without like getting my bias in there regarding like the whole like Gibbs thing, right? And how he treats his running backs, because I think it's great. His running back situation, the way he calls his plays with the running backs, it got better throughout the second half of the season than it did in the first half. He was more committed to Montgomery, and well, obviously he was the main back. But anyways, I'm rambling. It seems like we need to see more from him, and I think with what he finally got with the Lions and finally getting really good players on that team, and obviously having a good quarterback in Goff, it's interesting to see that, because what's going to happen when he goes to the Commanders, and I don't know, he has to deal with Caleb Williams and a rebuilding team. It's just you don't know what you're really going to get.
What do you mean Caleb Williams, though? Caleb Williams is scheduled to go to the Chicago Bears at this point.
I mean, you never know. You never know. All I'm saying is you never know. But
Okay.
if they land someone, okay, let's say, I don't know. If it's not Caleb Williams, I don't know, Drake May. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But like they
Yeah.
get a big-time quarterback in the draft, and he has to deal with this completely different scenario in the offense. What's going to happen,
You got to protect your rookie quarterback, too. Like
Exactly.
Yeah.
That O-line
it's
is not pretty, because if I'm not wrong, Howell was the most sacked quarterback in the entire NFL. I might be wrong, though. But
It
I
all
know
depends on how the quarterback does. Like, honestly, the rookies, because we've seen even veteran coaches like Bill Belichick with a new quarterback from the draft as Mac Jones, and that was a debacle disaster. You saw Zach Taylor from the coach from the Bengals, and he just was in the brink of losing his job, and then he got Burrow, and there, boom, he's there. He's continuing his career there. So, yeah, it all depends on your quarterback. Now, if I was Ben Johnson, would I want to go to a team that has no quarterback, and to it can be like a wild card thing, like if the quarterback that we draft, if he's good or not, because a lot of coaches like after having their team with a rookie quarterback that didn't do well, you don't hear anything about them, or they become coordinators again or whatever.
Maybe that's why Detroit Lions, they got Jared Goff. They didn't get a rookie quarterback, and so it
helps.
It sped up the process.
It helps having a veteran quarterback. Yeah, I know that we're going to talk about Kirk Cousins later, but if I was a team that needs just a capable quarterback, you're just seeing how the Lions got to the NFC Championship. You can definitely do that.
Why don't we talk about the AFC Championship game with the Kansas City Chiefs and Baltimore Ravens? Let's just say, now that we got the NFC conference done with, right, we're talking about them. The conspiracy theories fans, they're in shambles, right? Because the whole logo thing didn't go through. But now, obviously, right, you got to come up with a new conspiracy theory and saying, like, no, it was Taylor Swift this whole time, and she has to be there because that's going to produce money. So now that Taylor Swift is in the Super Bowl and the Baltimore Ravens are out, let's talk about this game, right? Let's go over it, and I'm going to throw this little stat out, right? Baltimore rushing, right? Lamar Jackson rushed 8 times for 54 yards. Gus Edwards rushed 3 times for 20 yards. The other ones are irrelevant. That's all that matters, right? Because there's other two, Zay Flowers, Justice Hill, on the stat sheet, right, that show up. Not really relevant because that's not the core running game. So we see an issue here, right? When you know about football, you know the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson and what they stand for and what their identity is on that team. I'm going to ask you guys this question. Was Lamar Jackson the reason why the Ravens lost?
The biggest talent Lamar Jackson has is his legs. And it was just incredible, that they weren't used much in the second half. He was placed to throw in the pocket like if he was Peyton Manning. I blame more the loss on the play calling by offensive coordinator Todd Monken than Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, they rely too much on Lamar Jackson throwing it rather than creating a game around his game plan. It's something that, something Dan Campbell would have helped here is to have a good game plan with the run. I also think that a lot of blame is on Zay Flowers for getting that being called on him, taunting flag or whatever it is. Because I believe if he didn't get that flag called, there would have been a different game and it would have been a different winner and a different outcome.
You really think so? I mean, who knows if they would have scored too?
They were right there.
They weren't right there,
yes,
right?
They
weren't at the 1 yard line.
No, they were like 5, I don't know, 5, 4. They were right there.
I disagree with you.
I mean,
once you're in the red zone, it's not like so simple too.
Okay.
No, yeah, I mean, it's a whole stat and it's a whole conversation, right? And it was kind of a conversation with even the Cowboys with the whole red zone thing, and for a lot of teams too. The red zone is a tough conversation because it's hard to play in the red zone. But with that aside, I think it's so strange. What happened with the offensive coordinator here? I think this is something where the whole deal with sticking to your script, right? Instead of the Lions sticking to their script, the Baltimore Ravens should have stuck to their script. And that was a huge mistake. Now, I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson is an awful passer, right? Because he's not. He's really not. And he's gotten, this is probably like one of the better group of receivers he's had. And in that case, it helped him be more dynamic or be just as dynamic as he has been on the ground. But it's interesting to me why they shied away from the running game. What do you mean Lamar Jackson only had 8 carries, right? He gets made fun of for being called a running back, right? But he's a quarterback, obviously, and he was making too many throws. He attempted 2 less throws than Patrick Mahomes. So he was throwing a lot. And he threw for also an interception, but it's not his fault. It's obviously the guy calling the plays. Why would you not use your stars to their strengths? It's just so baffling to me.
And the AFC Championship, too. Crazy.
The moment when it's right there again. We saw both sides with the Lions and the Ravens, but both different scenarios, and it was so weird to me why these teams did these certain decisions.
Well, I have a question for both of you. Look at both teams, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. Look at their quarterbacks. They like to, both of them use their legs. Patrick Mahomes uses his legs. Lamar Jackson uses his legs. Whoever's faster and with their legs, I mean, we can say it's Lamar Jackson, but I mean, it's debatable if you want to go that route. I can say that the difference in quarterback situation, like if Patrick Mahomes is given a play to throw, he's going to be moving around and trying to find that perfect pass. And if he's not, if he doesn't have it, he's going to take off. Lamar Jackson stayed there as a statue, trying to find the open wide receiver. And he even threw an interception in the worst moment and a triple coverage because his wide receiver put his arm up saying, like, I'm open, pass the ball to me. That's the difference between these caliber quarterbacks. Like, and Patrick Mahomes is just in a super top tier level because that wouldn't happen to him. And my question is, I guess my question for you guys is, do you guys agree?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, that it just shows you in that game who's the better team and why is they're the better team, because it's all Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, no, I mean, 100%. What we saw from here, this is the weakest Kansas City Chiefs team we've seen in a while. This is by far the weakest when it comes to their dynasty, right? What the heck? Like, this was the perfect opportunity for the Ravens to just go all out, right? And I put some blame on Harbaugh too as a head coach. You know your players. Why won't you say something? What happened? Like, did he really just trust his offensive coordinator that much that he was like, you know what? I feel like we could still do this, even though what was it? They were down. They were down 10 points at the half. Yeah, they were down 10 points at the half. I don't know. It's so weird.
It's horrible. Brock Purdy ran for 48 yards, and Lamar ran for 54. That's 6 yards difference.
It was a meme everywhere.
I mean, hello.
I think if
something
you
wrong
use
here.
that and really show that to the offensive coordinator, is what the heck are you doing? What the heck are you doing?
Mhm.
You got the best running quarterback in the entire league. I think personally. And you decide to only have him run about roughly 8 times, for 54 yards 8 times.
And if you're not going to have a top franchise, big time quarterback like Patrick Mahomes is, or like Tom Brady was, or Aaron Rodgers was, that just knows exactly where to put the ball in, like in the perfect spot, then you need a good running game. Look what happened with the Detroit Lions. If they didn't mess up those 4th downs and everything, maybe we would have had a different game in the Lions win. They had a great running game. Look at the 49ers. They have an amazing running game with Christian McCaffrey. And you as the Baltimore Ravens, I mean, you have Lamar Jackson and maybe your running backs, Edwards, and who's the other guy? I don't even know.
Hill, Justice Hill.
On Hill. Like, I guess they're not the best ones. They need a bigger running game. Yeah, for sure. But I mean, you do have Lamar Jackson. Like when he was running around trying to
they lost players
like in the first half, that you can't stop that guy. You cannot stop Lamar Jackson.
No, you can't.
It's impossible. It's almost impossible to stop that guy. That's why they were winning so many games.
Yep.
That's why it's so crazy that he wasn't used to run the ball.
This is not a roster problem. This is a coaching problem.
Are you sure? I was just about to say, because Lamar doesn't have, Travis Kelce. He might have Mark Andrews, but is he as talented as Travis Kelce?
No, I think Mark Andrews is going down. I wouldn't pick him up in fantasy anymore.
Then you have Zay Flowers. Okay.
Well, no, I can't even read you their stats right now. And this is, I mean, everybody would think, well, how come Lamar Jackson doesn't run that much? Look, yesterday he ran 8 times for 54 yards.
Mm-hmm.
On last week against Houston, he ran for 11 times, only 3 times more and it was 100 yards because he just
Are you sure it's 100 yards?
Yeah, 100 yards. I have it here by ESPN stats.
Yeah, it's because it also depends on how well those runs make out to be, right? And it's very meaningful whenever you go for a big run.
And it was double basically.
And you don't need
and then
to
before
run
that,
more.
it was Miami. When they played against Miami, he ran only 6 times for 35 yards.
Right.
Before that, against San Francisco, when Baltimore beat San Francisco, they ran for 7. He ran for 7 times for 45 yards. These are little yards that he's getting in.
So it's close to what he ran against Kansas City, isn't it?
Yeah,
but
it's very close.
So the game trend. Go ahead.
No, I think a little bit it does matter, the context, right? It's not always like 100% the stats. You got to look at that game, and I can be pretty forgetful when it comes to that kind of stuff. But how meaningful were those runs? I think that's another important question that needs to be asked, right? And I think that in this game, there weren't that many meaningful runs, and I think that's why they lost.
They lost because of Zay Flowers. That's why they lost.
I don't think so.
Well, I mean,
I think it was just the whole team thing. The offensive
got taunting, and then he fumbled.
Oh, right before the end zone, man.
They lost because of him.
That was heartbreaking. That was really heartbreaking.
Hey, and again, this is to my point. Look at the stats. This guy had 5 receptions for 115 yards and a touchdown. Wow, you could have been like, wow, this guy had a great game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you got to watch to see what.
Right.
What's
so
up.
it speaks volumes to that, and I think it does suck. Hey, but I mean, I thought that was pretty crazy how when Lamar threw that ball and then it bounced up in the air and he caught it. Hey, that's one reception for 13 yards. That was crazy.
Yeah.
It
too
sucks.
bad, but the better team won. And the one for the 49ers and Lions, like I can't say like, oh yeah, the 49ers complete. I mean, yeah, they won because they were the better team because they were more organized and not doing stupid decisions.
Yeah.
But in this case, we saw that the better team won.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah, this one. Ravens and Chiefs.
Yeah.
But
on paper though, the better team was the opposite team. Well, except only AFC Championship.
No, Kansas City is the better team, and that's what I was telling you.
On paper, no way. No
yes,
way
they
on
are.
paper. No.
You can't say Gus Edwards is better than Pacheco. You can't say Rice is better than
because
Zay
it doesn't
Flowers.
matter because they got Lamar Jackson on the ground. But when you talk about wide receivers goes to Baltimore. The defense goes to Baltimore. I mean, that's my opinion.
Yeah, wide receivers, I would agree with you. Yeah,
I don't think so.
Oh, Zay Flowers,
Rice?
Come on. He's already like single-handedly already better than...
I don't think Rice is like amazing too.
Rice is good, but he's not
Zay
Zay Flowers. Rice is a flop.
Tony was like supposed
They
to
sat
be
that
their
guy
big
out.
star,
Like
and they
that's how much. Let's talk about the Chiefs. That you sit out like one of the guys that you trade for because he seems like a great player, right? But obviously that didn't turn out to be with Kadarius Toney. Let's talk about the Chiefs, and now they're headed to their 4th Super Bowl, right? They've won 2, and they've went to obviously another one, but they lost, obviously. So now that they are going to the Super Bowl again for the 4th time, are the Chiefs 2020's dynasty?
There is no rule for a dynasty, and even they have 3. Even though they have 3 Super Bowl appearances in the last 5 years, I still wouldn't consider them a dynasty. To me, they would need to win at least 1 more in the next 2 years, so it can be 3 Super Bowls to become a dynasty. Like the Steelers in the 70s, the Cowboys in the 90s, and of course the Patriots are the last 2 decades. So 1 more Super Bowl win, and yes, they're a dynasty.
I would say we're on our way there for Super Bowl. I learned really late in the game to stop betting against the GOAT back then, which is Tom Brady. And now I learned from my mistakes, and I'm learning pretty early to not bet against Patrick Mahomes, and that's what I did yesterday, is not bet against Patrick Mahomes. I had him winning the game for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think they need to win at least 1 more Super Bowl to be considered a dynasty. And call me crazy, but I think they got a really, really good shot this Super Bowl. I know this is the weakest team that they've been in the past years, but I don't know. I've got something. It's just what I saw with Patrick Mahomes and what that team did, right, against the Ravens. Let's just say, yeah, the Ravens shot themselves in the foot. It's not completely the whole reason why they won Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes, again, if you watch the game, you would realize what the Kansas City Chiefs are. And I think they're a great team, but it's scary, but I think they got something special in them right here. I think that they're going to win this Super Bowl. I know this is way early into our last topic, but this is speaking on the dynasty. I think this dynasty is going to be accomplished once they win this coming Super Bowl. That's my thought on that.
And it's great, too, because Patrick Mahomes is the type of quarterback that even though he's having so much success, he's not like the other quartebacks that we've seen in the past that after they win, they're like, I'm good. Like, for example,
it's fun
Joe
watching
Flacco.
greatness.
It's fun and competitiveness.
And competitiveness, because the guy is so passionate. I mean, we've even talked about it, right? And even if we make fun of it or we even trash him a little because of how passionate he is, right? But he's passionate, and that's what really gets through these certain scenarios, right? When it really matters is that passion that they have for that game. And I think it's great to see. And like, I know he gets a lot of hate, right? Especially with what's surrounding him or whatever. But I personally like them, right? I like them. I think they're a great team, especially Patrick Mahomes. I think he's the best quarterback right now easily in the NFL. So good for him. And yeah, let's move on to some extras here and get this over with quickly. And talk about some talk of the Kirk Cousins of over there on the Vikings, Minnesota Vikings, and how a little report came out that said that he is looking for a $90 million guaranteed contract for 2 years, which is $45 million a year, to re-sign with the Minnesota Vikings. Is that too much money?
Not at all. There aren't really too many franchise quarterbacks, and the top quarterbacks are getting paid more than $45 million, like Burrow, Herbert, Jackson, Hurts, etc. Below $45 million, you have like the Daniel Jones, the Carr, the Goss, the Tannehill, Love, etc. For a capable quarterback like Cousins, I think that is a cheap price for a quarterback looking for an extension. And basically you wouldn't be paying like a top tier quarterback, which is more than $50 million at this point. I'm sure teams like Atlanta, the Jets, other teams, etc., would love to have a cheap, capable quarterback to get them to that hump.
Well, he has declined to go to the Jets, so we're not going to revisit that. I do think he's a good quarterback, and yeah, that's a good price. He's been a reliable quarterback right until his last injury, Achilles, when he tore his Achilles, and I think the best place for him is to go back to the Vikings and finish off the year there or his career there and retire.
Ooh, because how old is he? I forgot his age.
It's like 35.
Well, let me pull it up real quick.
He's 34, 35.
The guy is good. The guy is good for his age because I know he's up there in age, right? Obviously.
He's 35. Hey.
I'm joking. I'm just joking. It was a diss at you guys. Anyways, seriously though, but the guy's great. The quarterback is great. And again, it's this conversation we have that it's hard to find a really good quarterback. And you can even look at it kind of similarly to Jared Goff, right? And I think the Vikings should stick with him. And I think this is pretty fair, right? Some may argue that, right? Because sometimes you can make fun of the guy because he's quote unquote primetime Kirk Cousins because he can have those awful games or whatever. But ideally, they do benefit off having him, right? Because you saw what happened without him. I think that's just one of the reasons why he deserves that money is because look what happened without him. They probably would have been in the play. No, they definitely would have been in the playoffs if he was still playing, right?
And I think the Vikings fans,
I don't think it's too much.
I think the Vikings fans also do like him a lot, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah,
too.
He's likable. He's a likable guy if he's on your team.
And
a good
he's
guy.
won teams too. And he has make mistakes in games, but then he also like comes back and wins the game too as well. But it's just really frustrating when all of a sudden like he just has this huge horrible game that you're like, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen so many debacles on that way, and especially on prime time. I mean, he has that history of like just crumbling in prime time. But and then he has had a really good team. I mean, you have one of the best. According to like fantasy stats, people were getting a number one pick, Justin Jefferson, his wide receiver. He has the tight end T.J. Hawkinson. I know Cook left, but he was a big time running back for him as well for many years.
Addison was up there too.
Addison is up there too. So like, there's a point like, okay, what else can we give this guy to win a Super Bowl? But it could be a coaching thing for not putting them in the best positions to win, like maybe defensively or whatever. Because
they were going on a 5-win streak, I believe, before he went down.
Well, I'm sure a lot of teams would love to have a capable quarterback. There's not that many teams that have capable quarterbacks.
I think if you give this guy a running back, I think they would be pretty solid to make a Super Bowl run.
Watch for Derrick Henry to go there.
Yeah, that could be one of the options, right? I don't know how their cap space is working out, but the defense, I kind of forget about the Vikings defense. I know they've had issues in the secondary as of lately, but I think it's the good part that they have on the defense is the defensive line. I could be wrong, though, but it's their best option, and I think they should stick to their guns and sign this guy, give him what he wants. Right. What about, let's shift over to what's going to happen before the Super Bowl, and that is the Pro Bowl. Oh, boy. That's been the talk for, I don't even know how long, regarding the Pro Bowl. And I'm going to ask you guys this question because we all know whenever the Pro Bowl is mentioned and you think of the past Pro Bowls, right, about what it's about and what you guys think of it and whatever. Is the Pro Bowl a waste of time?
I don't even know what players were chosen, what rule changes there are as it happens every year. It is complete waste of time. The players don't even try. It doesn't even seem it's backyard football. It seems more like players playing with children, being extremely careful. They should call it the NFL Play 60 Bowl since it looks like the kids football camp.
Good one.
I hate the Pro Bowls. It's a complete waste of time. I never watch it every year. That's all I have to say.
Oh, okay. I think they should definitely change something up. Is it a waste of time for a casual fan? That's what it seems like, right? But for those people that, let's say they have it, I don't know if it's in their hometown. Obviously, there's still people that are going to travel because it's for hardcore fans that still want to see their favorite player in person or whatever it is, right? But as like regarding just the game itself, I think changes need to be made to entice these players to actually play another good football game, right? Because it's the best of the best, right? There needs to be meaning behind this, and the NFL needs to figure this out because it's not looking too pretty. And you mentioned, Andy, it's like it's not even backyard football. It's just like it's not even like necessarily just
they
good
changed
football.
they changed it to flag football, and it's still not that great.
It's worse.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, we want football, we want collisions and stuff. So they got to make it more like an incentive to them. I don't know what the pay is right now. Back in the day when I used to begin watching football, it was like 20,000 for the losing team, and for the winning team, it's like I don't know, like 70,000 or something like that.
They're definitely thinking about the players, though. They're definitely thinking about the health of the players.
Yeah, they're thinking about the health of the players, but
that's why they're getting more like strict with the flags and stuff like that, because it's leaking over to just even the regular season, right? Or just to the NFL season in general, not counting the Pro Bowl.
Well, you know that they have those contests about like the quarterback contest, which is kind of cool. I like those that they throw to see how many targets they throw and stuff like that.
But the Pro Bowl game itself.
The Pro Bowl game itself, they should just cancel that and just make it completely just a talent-wide like contest. Who's the fastest running back? Who's the one that bench presses the most?
Yep.
Who's the one that jumps the highest? Like things like that, and just give like big time incentives, like not like hundreds of thousands of dollars, so it can be a lot more competitive. Like, you know, people love to go and see like track and field, right? Make them run like a big time, like 40 yards, and see if it was a combine again. But you have the biggest stars of the NFL to do those things.
I do enjoy the throwing contest with the quarterbacks. I do enjoy that when they have to hit the targets.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy the trickeries and who does the best catch, and that's let me see who can do the best BMX.
They're trying to compete with the NBA, like the dunk contest. Like that. No, it's horrible. They don't even know what to do. And also like the mazes that they go through, and like jumping around, like and hooping around.
And then what is it, dodgeball?
Yeah, and then they have dodgeball. Like, what is that? What is that?
I could see me wanting to play it.
Yeah.
I just don't see me wanting to watch it.
Exactly.
I would love to play dodgeball and try to do a dunk contest. Well, or not really dunk contest, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. It seems they're kind of trying to satisfy both sides, but really they should just commit to one, which is, I agree, it should be something similar to an NFL combine, but make it fun. They should do something like that. But I think the lack of commitment into this, it seems like they're going to lose a lot of support from the Pro Bowl, as they've been in the past years. But
what if
I don't know if they're that desperate.
What if the last round of the NFL draft, the 7th round, it goes to the winners of who wins the game, the conference,
and then NBA level?
How? Well, I think I don't know if you're like if we're like telepathic.
Let's just make a lottery.
Yeah, no, exactly. You have the conference who wins. So
Yeah.
those are the teams that pick the most, and the quarterback or the teams that maybe scores the touchdowns. Like those players from those particular teams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but you have to be a little bit careful because the quarterback's going to be biased or unbiased, throwing it to your team where the touchdowns are. But you got to be a little bit more creative here. So I don't know. So there can be like some big time incentive within the draft or something, or make it like a lottery, like you're saying. Whoever is the conference, and then they make a lottery of what player or what team picks first in that round.
How about we make a deal or no deal, right? And then it goes down like that for the lottery when it comes to the draft. I don't know. They got to come up with something. They have people that they pay to come up with stuff like this for the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. For sure. It's $1 billion business, or billions and billions and billions of dollars business. It's the number one sport in America. They sure figure it out.
Yeah, definitely 100%. But I want to move on to the very end, which is obviously our picks for the Super Bowl. Now, let's obviously include all three of us in here.
You don't think we should wait until next week?
Oh, we can if you want.
Well, we still have. We can do like an early prediction, and then we can really like research. And
if you change your mind,
prediction, yeah, we can do that.
It's up to you guys. I don't care. We can save it for next week.
Yeah, let's just do that. Let's just save it for next week.
All right. So I guess this is actually going to conclude this episode for the Football Tailgaters podcast. Thank you guys again to those who made it to the very end. And we'd love to see you guys giving your opinion with us on our social media, which is football_tailgaters on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Thank you guys again for listening, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.